I want to take you up to almost where Santa lives, in a place just as imaginative as Santa Land. It's called Canada, where Justin Trudeau has been just a military jacket away from, being more like his dad in Cuba. But it's falling apart in Canada. His finance minister, which is the number 2 position, walked out. He said, I want to do another role for you. And she said, the only viable thing is if I leave the cabinet. This is the woman who shut down all of the social media gift-giving services and was freezing people's bank accounts during the trucker strike. She's also the one that does all of the trade deals between the United States and Canada. Gee, I wonder what she's worried about. Meanwhile, Justin Trudeau has just been giving away all kinds of money. He's got a sales tax holiday for Canadians and sending checks to Canadians that need it right now during the Christmas season. And he's also imposed some other things that are people aren't real happy about. Is his reign over, or is he going to be elected to a 4th term? I made a prediction today, and I know nothing about Canada. Today may be his last day. It's that close. Hero, really, of the Canadian people, Ezra Levant. Hello, Ezra.
Glenn, it's great to talk with you today. I heard your introduction about Chrystia Freeland, the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister. Yeah. She's much more than that. It would be like Dick Cheney was to George Bush Jr. I mean, the everything fixer, totally involved in all the files. That was Chrystia Freeland. And she quit yesterday, and she timed her leaving to detonate the morning she was supposed to deliver a mini budget. So that whole thing was thrown into a mess.
And basically, didn't she say that because we're spending all of our money and we have to stop because we might get into a trade war with America?
She did. And she, in her resignation letter, which she published, she accused Trudeau of being a narcissist, of being in it for himself.
No.
She didn't use the word narcissist, but she said, we've got to think about more than just ourselves. We've got to think about the country. She accused him of, quote, political gimmicks. And the thing is, she was his right-hand woman since the very beginning. And I want to tell you one more thing about Chrystia Freeland. She is on the board of trustees of the World Economic Forum. And what was her job right before she became a member of parliament to join Trudeau? You're not going to believe me. She was the authorized biographer of George Soros.
Oh, my
So the
gosh.
Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, but really the everything Minister of Canada. She was, like I say, like Dick Cheney to George Bush. She was the right-hand man on every file.
So was she more of the architect of this, or is Trudeau capable of doing? What I'm asking is Trudeau more of a Biden, and she's more of an Obama, or is it Dick Cheney and George W. Bush?
Trudeau loves the sizzle of being prime minister. He loves the adulation. It's hard to come by. So, for example, he went to the recent Taylor Swift concert and he exchanged friendship bracelets with teenage girls. That's his market these days. Everyone else shouts at him. So he was never a policy guy. He would leave that to the grown-ups. And Chrystia Freeland and George Soros would fill that void. And I'm not just saying George Soros as a throwaway line. A few years ago, Canada signed a contract with the Open Societies Foundation to draft our refugee policy. So this is not a rumor.
Oh, my gosh.
We literally outsourced. So Chrystia Freeland departing is an enormous blow. But look, Canadians can hardly wait to get rid of Trudeau. I don't want to sound overconfident, but the Conservative opposition leader, his name is Pierre Poilievre, he's excellent. He's way out ahead in the polls. remember, we have a multi-party system, so there's about 5 parties in Parliament. The Conservatives are at 43. Now, I know that might sound low in an American 2-party system, but when you've got 5 parties, 43% means you're going to have a massive victory. And last night, after Chrystia Freeland detonated Trudeau and quit, there was a pollster named Abacus Data that went into the field immediately, and his results have just been posted. Only 11% of Canadians approve of Trudeau. 11%. It's going to be a massacre. Last factoid, here's a little data point.
This is happy news. This is really happy news. Yeah.
While everyone was focused on the intrigues in Ottawa, there was a special election in the province of British Columbia for one of these members of Parliament. And the Conservatives, led by Pierre Poilievre, got 66% in the local district.
In Vancouver, BC?
Not in Vancouver proper, but nearby. So in BC, which is sort of like Washington State, it's a little bit hippie, it's a little bit eco.
A little bit?
A little bit. Yeah. But Glenn, I got to tell you, people of every background, according to the pollsters, men and women, young and old, and minorities, they all want Trudeau gone, which is so interesting because he came to power as the woke guy who, I'm a male feminist, he said, etc. Canadians are finally done with them. We just need that moment where we get to go to vote.
And Ezra, I hate to simplify your country's politics in this way, but Glenn, Poilievre is the guy the Apple guy. Remember the viral video where he was just sitting there answering questions? Eating the apple. That's the guy.
I love that guy.
Yes, I think everybody in America that saw that video loves this guy.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
Now,
that apple eating thing, give me 30 seconds on that.
Yeah.
He was answering questions from a left-wing journalist while casually eating an apple. And whenever the journalist would say things like, well, aren't you, people say you're like Trump. And he would say, what people? And what did they say? and he just did this a bunch of times, proving that the journalist was just, taking cheap shots. And when he said people say, he was just saying, I say. It was masterful. And the reason, why is that important? There was no real policy talked about. The reason that was important, Glenn, is because it shows that Pierre Poilievre has a Trump-like disdain for journalists. And why is that important? Because too many Canadian Conservatives are so worried about what the media will say about them. They respond to the peer pressure of journalists. They want to give journalists the answer that the journalists want. Poilievre is not afraid to look at our version of CNN in the eyes and say, and attack them and insult them and poke back. So I know that if he's elected prime minister, that he will be largely immune to the Mean Girls Club of the media party.
And that's saying something because you have the CBC. That's like our PBS, except that's the main. I mean, they control they are the CNN, NBC, ABC. They're everything up there.
They're larger than all other media combined. Yeah. Our state broadcaster has more journalists than every other media company combined. You can imagine how that really distorts the national conversation. But a lot of Canadians get their info through social media, which is why Trudeau's introduced legislation that would criminalize, including with a life in prison. Trudeau has introduced a bill called C-63 that has a life in prison component for, quote, hate crimes, including hate speech. That's one of the reasons Jordan Peterson cited for moving to America. Yeah. This bill, C-63. And we're going to fight that bill if it becomes law. But the way things are looking, I think Trudeau might not last long enough to make it into law.
So what happened? I mean, parliamentary systems are so weird. You can just call an election at any time, which is kind of weird. But does he have to call for one, or does he have to step down, or can there be a vote of no confidence? What happens next?
Well, he only has a minority in our parliament. He's propped up by a hardcore socialist party called the NDP, the New Democrats.
Right. And didn't they just come out and pretty much say, we're done with you?
No, it's trickier. They said, we demand Trudeau resign.
Right.
And then when they said, will you vote non-confidence in him, they refused to. So they like to pretend they're against Trudeau, but they have never opposed him. So Trudeau is the master of his own destiny as long as no one has the courage to push him out. And if there was a non-confidence vote, he could be thrown out and an election would be forced. But I don't think his critics have the courage to do that. I don't think they have the numbers. And look, these polls are so awful, Glenn. A lot of the Liberals who are sick of Trudeau and worry he's tanking things, they know they're going to lose whether the election is now or in 6 months. So why not drag it out for 6 more months, get paid, enjoy their power, run things a little longer? If you're a Liberal MP and you know you're going to lose the next election, why wouldn't you at least stretch it out 3, 6, 9 months to, get as much from your job as possible, get as much money, power, influence?
Unbelievable.
I think the Liberals are going to be smashed, but Trudeau will probably listen. He is stubborn and he's a fighter. I've never seen him apologize. No. I've never seen him quit. He has a lot of flaws, but tenacity is not one of them.
How much of a role did the election of Donald Trump play in this? Are you guys just behind us on what's happening here in America?
That's such a great question. In a way, a Trump tweet started the dominoes falling here. I don't know if you remember. About a month ago, Trump tweeted 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada if they don't seal their borders. Stop the illegal drugs, stop illegal immigrants. So it was, and Mexico immediately got on the phone.
Yeah, hang on just a second. Why does Canada have such a hard time with that? It's like, we need you to enforce your laws. That's all we need.
And Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, said, look, I don't want to do those things because Donald Trump tells me to. I want to do those things because it's in the Canadian interest.
Right.
Why would any Canadian... And Trump is worried about fentanyl coming through Canada into the States. Well, Canadians should be worried about that too. In fact, we are. We've had a huge crime wave under Trudeau. So the smart, grown-up answer is, okay, Trump is asking sort of roughly, like he's being a little bit... he's got that... he's walking...
Yeah, he's Donald Trump.
A big stick.
Yeah.
But... just deal with him. The man's a transactional deal maker. He's not actually asking Canadians for anything that we don't want. Just do it. But instead, let me throw one last thing at you, Glenn. Here's my theory of why Trudeau is fighting. As I mentioned, Trudeau is so low in the polls, and this Conservative leader is so high. But what if Trudeau could flip it? And instead of running against Pierre Poilievre, the Conservative leader, what if Trudeau would say, I'm running against Trump? Because Trump is not that popular in Canada because the media has bashed him for 10 years. And what if Trump puts
he
on
did
the
that
tariffs?
Here and
what if Trump brings in the...
We just stopped listening to
them. It's even worse up here.
Yeah, I know.
It's even worse up here. But one more move. What if Trump actually implements the tariff on Canada? It hurts our economy. So now Trudeau can say, this terrible economy is not my fault. It's Trump's fault. Vote for me if you want to stand up to Trump. Vote for me if you don't like Trump. Vote for me and we'll blame Trump together for the woes. I think Trudeau is willing to sacrifice Canada's economy for this desperate chance to run and win again. That's my theory, at least.
You know what? To me, that makes sense. And you know what? Honestly, to understand Donald Trump, you have to understand when he's negotiating, he never threatens. He's never threatening. He just makes promises. If you do this, I'll do that. If you do this, I'll do that. And he will. He will. Mm-hmm. So he's not threatening, he's just making promises.
Well, and why wouldn't Canada say, all right, you've got our attention. We agree we've got a border problem. By the way, it goes both ways. When Trump is going to deport a large number of illegal migrants, some of them will say, oh, we'd better come into Canada because there's such a soft touch. So we have an interest in having a strong border because we don't want all the folks Trump's going to deport, including those who committed crimes.
And those who are going to self-deport. Self-deport.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all those Haitians, they're going to want to go to Montreal, a French-speaking city, rather than go back to Haiti, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So we need a strong border also. Trudeau would rather fight with Trump for the media kudos than actually fix a problem. It's his last desperate chance. But you know what? I hope Canada comes back, and the Trump revolution is not just a political and economic one. It's a freedom revolution. Free speech, Elon Musk, RFK Jr. basically rebuking the COVID mentality. Yeah. Hopefully some of that freedom will slosh over the border into us, Glenn.
Yeah. One last thing, and we both have to run. You have 1 in every 20 persons now selecting suicide, and more women are electing for euthanasia than men are. I mean, this is getting way out of control, euthanasia in Canada, isn't it?
Our Veterans Affairs Department is suggesting euthanasia for soldiers who have PTSD.
Good.
If you say you're depressed, they will literally use that as a reason to give. They call it up here MAID, medical assistance in dying. It's the new word for euthanasia. Canada is now ahead of the Netherlands for this, and partly it's socialized medicine, because if you kill someone, they're not going to cost $100,000 a year on intensive care.
Yep.
Part of it is also the war on the concept of life. Trudeau is an absolutist for abortion, and this is an extension of sort of a eugenics approach. It's dark days for those who value life in Canada, Glenn.
I hope your theory is absolutely wrong, but I've watched you long enough to know your theory probably is right. I hope you're wrong, though. Thank you so much, Ezra.
Thanks, Glenn. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.